This is a story about two Ghanaian entrepreneurs, Aloysius Attah and Emmanuel Owusu-Adai, basically moved from building an online photography and video production service at KNUST to building Farmerline, an organization that has helped more than 100,000 farmers across more than 10 plus countries in Africa. Before we get into this video, we first need to understand a little bit more about the agriculture industry in Ghana. To learn more, here's a quick trivia round. In 2021, what percentage of Ghana's GDP came from the agriculture industry? $16 billion, $15 billion, $10 billion, $12 billion. If you picked option B, you got it. What percentage of total employment in Ghana actually comes from the agricultural industry? 50%, 60%, 10%, 30%. The answer is 30%. According to the latest figures from the International Labour Organization, the ILO, total percent of employment that comes from the agriculture industry in Ghana is 30%. So 30% of all total jobs within Ghana come from the agricultural industry. So as you can see, the agricultural industry is, I'd say, relatively important part of Ghana's overall economic story. The majority of those within this industry are actually smallholder farmers. And what is a smallholder farmer? Most smallholder farmers tend to have typically less than 5 acres of land that they actually till, that they actually tend to. For smallholder farmers, the equation for success is typically to improve the yield that comes from their harvest, that comes from the land that they tend to. Because improving the yield from their harvest leads to more produce that they can then go on to sell, which at the end of the day leads to more profits. So improving yields are super important. That's a critical piece in the story about Farmerline. It's easy for me to sit here and say improving your yield is important, but it's not that easy. Some of the issues preventing better yields are things like not having enough cash to be able to go in and buy the inputs that are necessary to improve your yield. The right inputs could be great fertilizer or even improved machines that you can use to boost the productivity of your field, as well as access to the right information in order to be able to make the best decision for your farm. As you can see, it can be tough. So now let's get back to Aloysius and George, who we started the story with, the dynamic duo, if you will. Aloysius and Emmanuel met at KNUST. At the time, Aloysius had started his first venture, Alloy World, not to be confused with Astro World. Alloy World was an online student and video production company. Now, the second venture which Aloysius worked on, along with Emmanuel, was a company called iCottage Networks. And iCottage Networks was effectively a web development firm located in Kumasi. Now, the question becomes, how do you move from building an online student photography service and a web development firm to building tools and solutions that really help farmers? Well, Aloysius has spent years of his life living with his aunt in rural Ghana, effectively seeing firsthand the struggles that smallholder farmers go to in order to make a living and build their business.
And my auntie was a small-scale farmer. I stayed with her for the first 15 years of my life, right before high school. And during that time, that was when I got introduced into agriculture.
Now with Emmanuel's mother had actually ran health clinics in many parts of rural Ghana. And during these health clinics, which Emmanuel had taken part of, he had seen firsthand the situation where some of these farmers wouldn't be able to afford care. And the reason why they wouldn't be able to afford care was as a result of different troubles with the yields and with the farms that they had. So they both decided to turn their attention from students to actually serving smallholder farmers. So now the question becomes, what exactly is Farmerline? What do they do? Now, to understand Farmerline, I think a really good example to use is to think about Amazon. So with Amazon, you go in, you order a package, the package gets to you within a day, sometimes 2 days, sometimes a week, you know, the whole one-day shipping thing. Jumia, very similar, there's a guaranteed delivery window. Now, how the hell does Amazon and Jumia actually relate to Farmerline? To understand Farmerline, we have to think about the power of partnerships. So Farmerline helps farmers. And how they help farmers is through basically this platform that can communicate with these farmers to communicate different tips, whether the weather is going to be bad, to give them transparency in terms of like the prices for what products or what produce is going to be flying, off the shelf so that they can make more money building up and planting that particular produce, helping these farmers actually finance buying the different inputs for their respective farms. How does that relate to Amazon? Well, you have to think about it from the supply chain perspective, right? And a lot of people like to throw supply chain out there, but really it's a supply chain perspective. Because if you look at the agriculture supply chain, especially within Ghana, what you do realize is that you have entire networks of different players that basically work together to get the job done. So on one side, you have your growers, and these growers are the smallholder farmers. Huge number of small grower farmers. In that process, you also have your input dealers, right? You have the people who provide the inputs to these farmers. So whether you're talking fertilizer, you're talking all sorts of inputs, right? Now, question becomes, where do those input dealers get their inputs from? Farmerline helps with that. You see, what Farmerline has done so intelligently, in my opinion, is that they've realized that they can build a network that connects the entire space. So these input dealers, what they would do is they basically hit Farmerline up and say, hey, Farmerline, we need inputs, right? We need fertilizer, for example. And what Farmerline would do is they would say, bet, we got you. You need inputs? Where are you? Millions of miles away in this particular place in rural Ghana, where a lot of people can't get to. No worries. We have our fleet. We have our trucks. We have our motorcycles. We have the capacity to get to you. We give you guaranteed of within 72 hours, we're gonna be there at your shop, giving you the necessary inputs that you need to serve your community. You get it? So all of a sudden you run into the situation where Farmerline is able to guarantee like, hey, we can get you your necessary inputs. And what's more, we can also finance you with a unique financing option. And that financing option is like, hey, we come to you, we give you the inputs, you don't have to pay us now. Pay us in 2 weeks if you're the dealer, if you own an agro input shop is what they're called. The interesting thing, this is kind of going on a side tangent, you realize with a lot of these supply chain type businesses, like they always have like if they're in agriculture, it's gonna be like agri business. Or if it's something, it's gonna be like agro this. I wonder where that comes from. I don't know why it can't just be is it easier to understand if you say agribusiness? Anyways, I diverge. Going back to the input dealers. What you realize is that the 2 weeks that they have to pay back that particular inputs allows them to actually buy more fertilizer and give those, whether it's fertilizer or other inputs, give those inputs to the farmers that they serve. Additionally, the farmers themselves can also source directly from Farmerline. And the farmers, this is a mind-blowing thing. Farmers have to pay during the harvest season. All of a sudden, what do you get? You get the Amazon of the agriculture value chain, if you will. Because not only are Farmerline effectively dealing with suppliers and getting the necessary inputs, distributing those inputs to the necessary communities, but they're also making sure that they guarantee a particular level of service to these different communities. Additionally, what they've been able to do, which is mind-boggling, is they can reach anywhere. Whether you're close by in a urbanized area or you're far away in a rural area, Farmerline has the capacity to get to you through rain, snow. Okay, we don't get snow. We don't have snow here in Ghana. Let me not cap. That's not. Through a lot of different conditions, they will get to you. They built partnerships. They built this network that comes together. And as a result, they're able to serve over 200,000 farmers. As they've learned and they've built this capacity, what they've also been able to do, which is super interesting, is they're basically like, hey, we've learned how to engage with farmers. We've learned what information that certain farmers need in order to improve their yields. We understand how to map farms, how to predict harvest seasons and all of this stuff. Why don't we bundle up all that goodness, all that different capability, and offer it as a service to other organizations? Whether you're the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or you're Hershey's, with cocoa and chocolate, we're gonna give you the capacity and the opportunity, the ability, if you will, to basically be able to serve farmers better. And that's why Farmerline, I think, is such an interesting company. They're really hitting it on the head when it comes to rethinking how to help farmers and boost productivity in the sector. And it's not an easy thing to do. And this platform, the one that they're selling to other organizations, is called Merge Data. And that's what they've basically taken and given to all the different partners to basically become more effective at engaging with farmer communities and different farming groups, as well as the entire agriculture value chain within their own respective context, if you will. Another interesting thing that they do, which I want to bring up, is that they're really focused on farming as this lever for productivity across Africa, right? Because at the end of the day, the farming industry is actually seeing a crisis where a majority of farmers are getting old, aging out, really. You have a lot of the youth who are also moving from the rural areas into more urban areas, the whole process of urbanization. And what you're gonna get is, as farming becomes less and less attractive, the farming output reduces, less people are gonna be into farming, and that's not positive. So what Farmerline is doing is they've actually built up really, I think, unique partnerships to basically get more people into farming. One partnership is a partnership with Hershey's, I believe. They built an app, and the app is called Cocoa Link. And what Cocoa Link is basically a social media app for up and coming farmers who want to engage with the cocoa agricultural chain. So if you ever had thoughts of owning your own cocoa farm, how do you do it? How do you guarantee a market for it? How do you figure out tips to start your farm? All of that goodness. They built an app for it. And there's that kind of forward thinking that makes this company super interesting. Big ups to Aloysius and Emmanuel Owusu-Adai. What Farmerline is doing is amazing. But anyways, smash that subscribe button. And also, if you're looking for more interesting videos around tech ecosystem in Ghana, check out this video right here. It's amazing. You'll love it. My name is Adom. This is The Palava. Have a good rest of your day.